Welcome back to the DB Pro Devlogs. I'm Jay, one of the co-founders of DB Pro, and this is Devlog number 6, which is kind of wild because it means we're coming up on 6 months of building, shipping, marketing, and very publicly talking about everything we're doing with DB Pro. We've got a packed devlog today with a bunch of new features in DB Pro and a special announcement at the end. So if you're a fan of DB Pro, you definitely won't want to miss it, so stick around. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome, and if you've been following along since the early devlogs, or you're already using DB Pro day to day, welcome back. We get a lot of feedback on these devlogs and over on Discord, and honestly, that's one of the best parts of building DB Pro in public. One piece of feedback that comes up fairly often is around the free version being limited to 2 open tabs at a time. Designing free software is genuinely hard. You're always trying to balance making something useful and generous, while still building a sustainable product that can actually exist long term. We do our best, but it's never perfect. That said, this feedback did spark a really interesting discussion internally. One idea we've been kicking around is whether it makes more sense to limit the number of connections in the free version rather than the number of open tabs. Tabs are very visible, and for some workflows, that limit can feel more restrictive than it's meant to be, even if the actual usage is fairly light. We don't have a final answer on this yet, it's still very much a conversation, and we're genuinely curious what you think. Would limiting connections feel fairer than limiting tabs? Or is the current setup actually fine for how you use DB Pro? Let us know what you think in the comments below, or come and chat to us on Discord. Your feedback really does shape where DB Pro goes next. The link to our Discord is in the description below. The last few months have been a bit of a whirlwind. Across the first 6 devlogs, we've talked about the problem we're trying to solve with DB Pro, the kind of people and teams we're building it for, and the features we believe a modern database client should actually have. We launched DB Pro back in November 2025, not really knowing what to expect, and the response honestly caught us off guard in the best possible way. We've talked about how unexpectedly big that first release was in a previous devlog, and we've gone deep on some of the more ambitious features. In the last devlog especially, we focused on a bunch of things you, the DB Pro community, were actively asking for. A lot of what we build is now directly shaped by how people are using the product in the real world. And since the very start of DB Pro, a lot has changed. I mean, just look at the UI in the first version compared to what it looks like now. If you've been using DB Pro for a while, you'll probably notice things feel more refined, more intentional, and more confident than those early builds. And that's because the UI has been evolving steadily in the background. But today's update is a bit different. The UI is about to change quite dramatically, sort of. After months in the dark ages, DB Pro has finally seen the light. Light mode is now available in DB Pro. You can switch between light and dark instantly, and dark mode isn't going anywhere. This isn't a reskin or a quick toggle either, it's a proper theming system that's built into the core of DB Pro. We're building DB Pro, a modern database client for macOS, Windows and Linux, built for developers, founders, data engineers, and everyone in between. It supports all your favorite databases, with a powerful data browser, visual schema exploration, pending change reviews, and a clean, fast SQL editor. It's free to download for Mac, Windows, and Linux. To download DB Pro, visit dbpro.app. Alright, back to it. The obvious question is, why support light mode now? Well, early on, DB Pro was deliberately opinionated. We were building for a very specific kind of developer, the type who lives in terminals, editors, and dark mode, and cares way too much about good UI and UX. Also, supporting just one theme meant we could move faster, reduce visual edge cases, and focus on getting the product right before making it flexible. Light mode isn't something you rush, you add it when your UI has matured. And let's be honest, dark mode looks so cool. But more importantly, it made it easier to establish hierarchy, contrast, and density without constantly fighting color balance. I personally still use dark mode most of the time, but I genuinely like light mode too, especially when you're scanning large tables of data. Let me show you how it works. When you open DB Pro for the first time, we ask which theme you want to use. There's this really nice swipe animation as you move between light and dark, so you can actually see how the UI feels before you commit. However, you can change it at any time in the settings, or if you'd rather not think about it, just set it to follow your system and forget about it. So let's take a look at how DB Pro feels in both light and dark mode. The sidebar feels clean and readable in both modes. The query editor keeps the same structure, but the tone completely changes. Tables are where light mode really shines. Row scanning, selection, and contrast all feel so much sharper. Light mode actually feels really light and airy. The important thing is that light mode doesn't feel like a different app. Everything is consistent. Under the hood, DB Pro now has a proper theming system. Let me show you. Everything is built on design tokens and variables. Spacing, contrast, color roles, not random hex values scattered around the app. Light and dark are simply two themes using the same structure, which means adding new themes doesn't turn into a mess, and takes minutes to do. And this is where it gets really fun. This foundation means you, our users, will be able to create your own themes. You could build a super high contrast theme for production work, a softer late night theme that's easier on the eyes, or a clean theme that's perfect for scanning tables and dashboards. You could even match DB Pro to your editor, your terminal, or even your company colors. Longer term, it also opens the door to shared themes, community presets, and potentially even a small marketplace. There's no promises yet, but the groundwork is finally there. So this update isn't just about light mode, it's about choice, polish, and DB Pro finally growing up. We've also added native Redis support to DB Pro, and this is a big one. You've probably got a database client open for Postgres and MySQL, and then some separate Redis GUI open, or you're just living in Redis CLI. That's a lot of juggling. With DB Pro, you don't need to do that anymore. Your relational databases and your Redis stores all live in the same app, same interface, same workflow. One tool for everything. And when I say Redis support, I mean proper Redis support. We detect your key hierarchy automatically and display keys as a nested tree structure in the DB Pro UI. So if you've got keys namespaced like users 123 sessions, you'll see that as a browsable tree rather than a flat list of 1,000 keys. The command query editor gives you inline hints for what each command does, so you don't need to keep the Redis docs open in another tab. And you can set or update the TTL on any key directly, so there's no need to drop into the CLI just to slap an expiry on something. And it's the same beautiful DB Pro experience you get with your relational databases. You can make changes to your keys, queue them up, review what you've done, and then commit them all in one go. No more firing off commands one at a time and hoping you didn't fat finger a del on the wrong key. You're in control of when those changes actually land. Now, here's the thing worth mentioning. This works with anything that speaks the Redis protocol. So it's not just a Redis instance you've spun up locally or deployed on a VPS. It works with Upstash. It works with AWS Elasticache, Redis Cloud, Avon, DigitalOcean Managed Redis, Google Cloud Memory Store, any managed Redis provider, they all just work. In this demo, I'm actually connected to an Upstash instance, and as you can see, it's completely seamless. And finally, we have a really big announcement about what we're working on next. A few weeks ago, we ran a poll in our Discord asking whether you'd find a web version of DB Pro useful. The answer was a resounding yes. So we've been working away, and I can now announce a new product, DB Pro Studio. It's DB Pro, but in your browser. Access your databases from wherever you are, on whatever device you want. And it makes database work collaborative by default. There's still a lot to come, but we wanted to give you a first look. We're not replacing DB Pro Desktop with Studio. The desktop client will work alongside it, and in fact, it will be more powerful. You'll be able to join workspaces and use the desktop app as your daily driver still. Because Studio is self-hosted, you're in control. It's yours to deploy however you see fit. You could run DB Pro Studio alongside a SQLite database on your home server and manage it from your phone. Or, if you're working in a team of 5 on a Postgres instance, you could all join in and start sharing queries, dashboards, notebooks, and collaborating around the database together. Those are just 2 examples. The possibilities really are endless. If you know Postman, think of it like that. We're building the Postman for databases. We're really excited about where DB Pro is heading. DB Pro Desktop and DB Pro Studio cover desktop and web. We'll have a lot more to show you in the next devlog. If you want to be one of the first to try DB Pro Studio, we're accepting beta signups now at dbpro.app/studio. And if you want to get involved early, come and join us on Discord and let us know in the general chat. We'd love to have you in the beta. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.